The reason why I think this is such an important shift is one is the internet has shifted from being a search centric or search based internet to a social based internet. How do you cut through all that and how do you do it in a more genuine, authentic way?
Welcome to Avidly Talks, a mostly marketing, sales and HubSpot focused podcast. Each week we're diving into topics to help you do better in your work and try to make you smile along the way. This week we're joined by Mark Kilens. Have I said that right?
Yes, that's right.
Former HubSpot and Drift, but now CEO and co-founder of TACK, and he's on a mission to help B2B companies match their go-to-market to how people actually buy today. Brilliant. Nice to have you with us. How's it going?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. It's going well. Excited to have this conversation. I've known Avidly for a long time, way back when HubSpot was just getting their Dublin office, off the ground. So way back.
We've only just realised, or I've only just realised that as we started to talk before doing this show. So, yeah, you know some names that we know, and we're going to meet up at Terminus.
Terminus,
Inbound.
the Terminus TACK event coming up at Inbound. Yeah, if you're
Tell
listening
us
to
about
this
that.
after Inbound, hope Inbound was awesome for you. But yeah, we're doing a couple of events at Inbound, and I just love Inbound. I mean, it was this year's crazy where they sold out earliest they've ever sold out. So I think the quality of the audience has just really gotten a lot better since COVID happened. The strategy before when I was at HubSpot was keep making it a big event, a lot of free tickets, grow the numbers. But now since COVID happened and the whole change in how kind of B2B events should look and feel, it's been more focused on not intimate. It's still 10,000 plus, but quality of the audience.
Yeah, I'm finding it's it's amazing. I first went in 2017. It seems to get, even though I don't know if the numbers are still growing, like you say. I think they're pretty there or thereabouts in the same ballpark, but just what's going on seems bigger and better every year. Different stages emerging, different areas on the shop floor, on the trade floor. Yeah, no, it's good. More events like yours happening around it as well. It feels like.
Yep.
So that's good. Nice. Right. So you've got your coffee. It's morning where you are. I'm over in the UK, but we'll be in person soon. I'll hopefully get you on camera to plug this. Now, we came across each other on LinkedIn. You were sharing a resource that was super interesting and on point for where our brains at, and this series of the podcast is about. So let's dive into people first, go-to-market model. What is that, and why does it matter?
Yeah, absolutely. So to define it, let's just define it out of the gate. It's a way to grow your business, a way to bring your products to market that uses three things as the foundation of how you grow and bring products to market. One is storytelling. Two is the relationships you and others have within your company with other people and other companies, at other companies. And then three, partnerships, which are taking relationship and turning into something that's more structured, more mutually interesting, viable, economic wise, whatever. But it's more, I'd say more structured is the way to think about a partnership. So those three things are like I was saying, the foundation for how you want to think about using a people first approach. The opposite of people first is kind of what most companies do today, which is company first. Hey, the company's going to bring itself into the market. We're going to have the company represent itself in the market. And of course, there's people at that company, don't get me wrong. But the company's creating content, right? The company is sending the emails. The company's, in the ads or, are the ads, if you will. The company might be trying to grow and go to market mostly alone. Like they don't have a really strong partnership foundation. They're not leveraging relationships that all of their employees have, that they could leverage to help them grow. They're not really focused on messaging and positioning, which is core to storytelling at the brand, solution, product level. So in the reason why I think this is such an important shift is one is the internet has shifted from being a search centric or search based internet, Paul, to a social based internet. If you think about like when HubSpot started back in 2006, social media was just getting going. Like Facebook, like basically just went from a college only platform. I was in one of the first colleges to ever get Facebook back in 2004, and
Yeah.
then it opened up, and Twitter was just founded, I think, then, right? So HubSpot was built on this premise of search and information, and people use search engines, and you can find stuff, and you're going to pull people in, magnet, like a magnet into your website using good content. That's great, that works. But now that everyone has done that, how do you cut through all that, and how do you do it in a more genuine, authentic way? And the other thing that's created this paradigm shift is we all are now content creators. We all now can create things so easily thanks to hardware and software advancements over the last 15 years. The mobile computing revolution, the messaging platforms that have been built into all of these different social networks and other products. Those things have shaped the internet to be much more social centric, which lends itself to more people first approach. I'll pause there. We can dive into a lot more, but wanted to kind of set the foundation.
And why is that something that's so important to you? Why are you like leaning into that so hard?
Because it's a trend that's undeniable that we can't really stop. Like it's you either get on that train or you don't get on that train, and you'll probably be left at the station. It's if you look at like the trends that are undeniable, that are even bigger than market drivers, like market forces, right? Like a market force or a market driver. This is just like a thing that's affecting all humans who have access to the internet in terms of how we communicate, how we buy things, how we learn about things. Using less the search engines and more social networks, and how.
Explain that a bit.
What do you mean, like the search engines, the social networks?
Well, how people are using it, and how people are using the internet, basically. Break that down for us.
Well, they're creating their own online identity, and now your online identity is fragmented, right? Because you sign up for hundreds of things over time, but like you have your top 3 things that you use, if not even just top 1 or 2, and like those things are really like core to how you either both behave and act professionally and personally. So, a lot of people in the B2B world, right? Like LinkedIn is a big thing. A lot of people might not be posting, but there's a lot of people like consuming, right? So it's like, all right, well, are you going to pay attention to another brand on LinkedIn? No, you can pay attention to another person. Facebook, Threads, Instagram, TikTok. Sure, there are brands on there that are doing interesting things, and you'll look, but like you're going to connect more with a person because of how we as people are wired than just a brand. So this shift that B2C has picked up on, or much earlier than B2B, using the classic term of influencers or creators or whatever, figureheads, that's part of people first, but it's much more than that. It's changing how you represent your brand in the market, because how we as people live online is changed and is becoming such a big part of our lives.
Totally. What comes to mind is, I'll try and put this on in the edit, but there was a presentation I've been given for the past month or so that shows that with a scroll through on your phone of your app library.
Yeah.
And that's just the folders. And each one of those has got about 20 in. And you go to your different apps for, I'll come to TACK for B2B advice. I'll go to LinkedIn for see what the market at large is saying. I'll go to that account on Instagram for a recipe that I trust. So it's a way to get in front of those people in those kind of places by the sounds of it.
Yeah,
How
it's
does
a job to be done.
storytelling layer in?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt
How
you.
does
I think
storytelling layer in?
yeah, you hit on a good point, Paul. Like, sorry to interrupt. It's like like the job to be done. Like you use all these different apps or websites for maybe one job only, but like it's an important job, and like you're gonna follow people and brands to get that job done.
How do companies, particularly B2B, weave in the storytelling element? Because that, if you read any copywriting advice, any brand advice, everybody says we know we need to tell stories. What's your practical way of helping people do that?
The first thing you do is you have to understand that your business exists for some reason outside of just what it sells. And if it doesn't have that, like you should really think hard and long about that. So the classic idea of like starting with the why and the who. It's both the why and the who. Like, who needs what you're saying and talking about, um, and why do they need it? That's sure the pain, the problem. The other why though is why do you why would they pick you over someone else? So differentiation, right? So products are going to become more and more copied, commoditized faster. It's just a spectrum. It's just, when is it going to happen? It's going to happen. So how you actually get remembered is not so much by just innately product value. Super important. You have to deliver your product's value and you have to, do it well. But when you think about like what people remember and then latch on to and stand for, there is deeper meaning that has to be established, that you have to like create for your brand, which is this story that gets people to say, yes, I believe in this thing. I mean, the extreme example is religion. They created a story, right? There's all these stories, the Bibles, all these things, different religions. People latch on to that, right? So you need to do that at this like brand level, this your solution category level and product level, and find like a red thread. There's these two red threads I talk a lot about. What is the red thread of like your point of view distilled down into one or two words? For HubSpot, it was inbound marketing, inbound. And then what's the value red thread? For HubSpot, it's leads, right? It's like at the end of the day, like, I mean, it's more than that now, but like they help get people get more leads. For Drift, it was conversations and meetings. For someone like Comsor, it's networks and introductions. Another early stage startup that's up and coming. So how do you tell that story that is gonna get people to listen to it? And how do you get those people that are within your company that are within the audience you're trying to get in front of, build a relationship with? How do you like partner with those people to help you craft that story, but also then share that story broadly for those that believe in it? So that's another aspect of people first.
Like it. And then when it comes to choosing people practically and getting those people in as the front and center, just perhaps a obvious question, maybe, I don't know. Are you meaning literally employees being the ones posting on LinkedIn, being the ones who appear, having a spokesperson for the brand?
Yes.
That is what you mean.
Yeah, so at Drift, we did this at HubSpot. HubSpot, we did it really early days. So one of the things I built at HubSpot was HubSpot Academy, and we deliberately positioned people on HubSpot Academy that were like customer facing, that were teaching.
That's one of the things with inbound. I remember the first time me and my colleague went, and we're like, "Where do I know that person?" Oh wait, it's HubSpot Academy.
Yeah, and we positioned them as professors, right? Like, okay, maybe that was a little pompous, but like it worked, right? Like, so like these people built up identities, and it wasn't HubSpot Academy teaching, it was Kyle Jepsen.
Yeah.
Right. It was Sarah Fraser. It was she was at Drift actually. Sorry. I
get the point though. I know.
Yeah,
what you
Sarah
mean.
Bedrick. I was gonna say, but like, yeah, you see, like it's that like. So then at Drift, we actually created a podcast network, and we had 5 different people at Drift get shows, and we helped them produce the shows for specific personas we were going after. And there were some of these shows still exist today, like Sean Lane. We allowed him to take his show with him as he left Drift operations. It's a super successful podcast for RevOps people. Like, that is how you do this. You could just have people just like post and share stuff. But like, if you take it to this next level of being deliberate to say, here's the audience we want. We have this person who's doing this job. We want to enable them, and they're super passionate about this. It's not Drift doing a podcast. It's Sean Lane, who actually works at Drift, who's super passionate about RevOps. That's the deal.
Yeah. That makes sense. You see so many good examples of that in the marketing space as well, particularly like Drift and HubSpot. That's great marketing to marketers and salespeople.
Yeah.
What examples have you seen, or can you give for, say, I don't know, manufacturing companies or construction companies or financial services?
I got one right now. Yeah, it's a customer. So Ivan, AIVEN, helped them launch a podcast. We have podcast production packages at TACK with distribution. Ivan, they sell to engineers and developers, CTOs. So they have their field CTO. His title is Chief Technology Officer for the field. And he is the host of their podcast. And he's done season 1, it's out. He's doing season 2 now. And like, that is now an example of him bringing customers and non-customers into this podcast, thematic, season-based, and growing his brand through Ivan, right? So it really doesn't matter what you are. You could go back to what Marcus Sheridan did early days. He didn't do a podcast early days, but he did a great job with content, right? The pool example from HubSpot, same thing, right? It's just about finding like the person who's passionate about this and who's the right fit and who ideally already has trust with the buyers that you want to turn into customers. Because that's also the kind of a secret of people first, GTM. It's not really a secret. It's just like the natural hack, which is, well, if you partner with someone who already has an audience and a following that trusts them, that has a relationship with them, and you give them the ability to do more for themselves and then add more value to their audience, it's a mutual win-win.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that trust bit is leading back to what you talked about before with people not trusting Google. I mentioned my son, who's just appeared next door, and we're hoping he doesn't burst into the office. But yeah, he gave us a good example last week of not trusting results on Google because an article was written by a content marketer like me with incorrect or basic information in, let him down, and there's a distrust there in Google. What we are doing with this series is that we can see SEO content sort of saturated with marketers spoiling organic results with picture getting a recipe. You want a recipe for a good lasagna? You've got to read the person's story about their grandma from Italy who brought some tomato seeds over, or the holiday they went on to Rome and the back streets and all this fluff until you get to the actual recipe. More and more stuff is like that. AI overviews have then come, and you've got that space where you turn to the person you follow on Instagram, or you message somebody privately for their advice. All of that's got us to this place where people are distrusting content that's out there from companies. They turn to people like you're describing. We've now got tools like SearchGPT's at its wait list for people. Google AI overviews are spreading to different countries now. You're going to ChatGPT connected to live sources. I put a question in to ask you around what you make of the past few months in particular, where it's really gone 100 miles an hour on these kind of landscape changes. And you changed the question to the past few years, and not just digital marketing, the marketing landscape generally has changed over the past few years. Why did you change that to the past few years instead of the past few months of technological developments?
Well, a couple reasons.
Yeah.
No, sorry to cut you off. I mean, just a couple of reasons. One is like, I think we're in this big bubble with AI. Like, no one's going to talk about AI in like 10 years. Like, it's just stupid. Like, no one cares about AI. They just care about the result, the outcome, the experience. It's kind of funny what's going on right now, honestly. Anyway, it's almost like everyone was like doing like a .com business name back in the 97, 98, 99.
Yeah.
It's like,
do you follow Corporate Bro or the sales Instagram parody?
A little bit, yeah.
With the what do we do to our startup, and they're really struggling, and then it's I've got it, AI.
Yeah, it just says like, name the company AI or .ai, yeah. Right? Anyway,
.ai, yeah.
So I think that there's part of that. Partly we just don't know what we don't know. It's so new. It's so early. There's a lot of big promises. I would say there's not so much to back it up quite yet. There's just a lot to be figured out. And really, like, that is a thing that's part of this. In our 5 things that make up people first go to market, like the change, or why change, the convergence of AI is one of them, right? Which means, I think, because so much more of what we're doing is going to be artificially created to some degree, when it's authentically created, there's something to be said there, right? There's something that probably is going to be better, right? So, but if you look back further and like you look at like just the things that are like definitely have happened or are happening at mass scale, because AI, if you look at the AI adoption metrics, very few people use it every day. Like, there's a good amount, still not the majority that use it every month in terms of like these AI search engines, ChatGPT, etc. But like very few people are actually using it it's still like the adoption curve is so long. But like if you look at these other things, right? Social networks, messaging, uh, consuming content, creating content. Like it's way past the majority.
It's interesting you mentioned the change curve, because there is that long change curve, and particularly for people like us in the digital marketing space and LinkedIn buzz about AI. But everybody uses Google, everybody uses their mobile phone. That's for 90% of people Google or Apple.
Yep.
Apple Intelligence, Gemini, Google AI Overview. What's your take on that then? 'Cause I wasn't expecting you to say this about AI and the change curve, because people aren't going to, if Google gives them an AI answer, they are now using AI.
Yeah, well, yeah, true. I mean, if you, I guess it goes back to like what is use, like what is like, so use is an interesting word, right? Like I'm using something that could be highly interpreted in many different directions. So if you watch the Olympics, if you watch any kind of major sporting thing, right? Because that's really like for live TV, like the only thing people really watch live for the most part these days is like sports. So you saw all these brand awareness commercials for Gemini, mostly Gemini, because the Apple stuff still isn't out. I actually hadn't seen one for ChatGPT. I don't think I saw some for Salesforce, B2B. But my point is, they were just trying to get like the masses to even know that this stuff even exists. Like we're in a bubble with marketers, salespeople on LinkedIn, to your point, et cetera, et cetera. So then it's like, wait a minute. Well, if I'm using it, what can it really do for me? And that's where like the education comes in, and integrating it into someone's workflow to start with, like a search, is very smart, because then you're like, oh, wait a minute, what is this thing? I see it, cool. But then from there, it's like, well, how am I going to actually get value from this, right? So I think once it starts to get integrated into workflows like the apps you showed on your phone, like the services you use every day, and you become that much more like efficient, because ultimately AI really is about efficiency. There's some creativity, but efficiency. Then people will be like, okay, yeah, I get it. And then again, then it's not even AI. It's just like I'm using Google. Like
Yeah. I'm using Apple Intelligence. Like it's gonna be. That's where it's. Yeah. Anyway, we digress. Before we turn this into an AI podcast, back to they're the tech changes that I think are, going to accelerate us through that adoption curve. But it's just one of the many things you've talked about with user habits changing. You mentioned Facebook, one of the first places, your college, to get Facebook.
Yeah.
Twitter, that all inbound era with people searching and coming, a website being a magnet to attract people. But those user habits have changed. Privacy laws have changed. What do people need to rethink or revisit from their normal ways of working to do what you are saying, to build in that storytelling, those relationships with real people instead of a brand, to utilize partnerships? What do people need to think about from their established ways of working for the past 10 years?
It really starts with, I get this question a lot. It starts with understanding what we talked about today a bit more. So you can go to TACK Network, TACkinsider.com to learn more about this. But it's really like, do you believe in how you bring products to the market, how you do marketing and sales needs to change? Because if you don't bother like trying this then, probably, right? Like it's
Why?
you could try it on a small scale if you want, but like to really make a shift in how you market something. Like for example, like you could try to send all of your emails from a real person in a much more conversational, story-based tone, that stuff, and you probably will see better results. Great, check that box. Then it's like, wait a minute though, if those emails don't like because like email is a channel, number one, and email is a tactic. It's not a strategy. So if you don't believe in a different strategy, it's only going to get you so far. So I should say, like, you could definitely try, to your point about why, try and do things, but to actually make a big change in how you think about the brand representing itself, and how you think about messaging and positioning, and how you think about what you invest in. Do you invest in like paid ads, social search, etc., or do you invest in some of that, but you're investing in other things that are more people first? Maybe more events, maybe more content creation on social networks, maybe more research. That's literally, like, research is awesome because it's literally people answering questions that you can then do so much with. So anyway, like my point is, it comes down to dollars and cents, and what you believe dictates a lot of where your dollars and cents go. So try it. You can crawl, walk, run this. I'm happy to teach anyone. We crawl, walk, run for all the different things in the model. But if you don't have some level of conviction that like this could be a good, better way, the results won't be like astonishing.
Give me an example of crawl, walk, run.
Yeah, I mean, so to start with is the email. I'll just go back to that example. All right, we're going to send our newsletter now, not from the brand, but from a person who represents the brand. Cool. Let's see how that goes. Which overhaul the entire thing. We have tons of examples of this in TACK Insider, but like we're going to do people first email marketing. Okay, we did that. Now we're going to overhaul all of the email nurture, right? We're going to overhaul everything. We're going to overhaul all of our sequences. We're going to overhaul all of that. So that's like walking now. Okay, cool. Now running with that is like, all right, well, we have really designed a people first email programs. Like our email marketing is coming from people, using storytelling, using a much different tone, much different conversational approach, all these things. But how does that integrate into the rest of the experience? Like they're getting emails because there was probably some type of engagement trigger, right? Some type of action that made that happen. So now it's like, how do I tie that more into these other things, which we call integrated revenue campaigns, which might be a topic for another day on the podcast. But like, how do you integrate then this one channel and these set of tactics in this channel with the other things? So you could pick any channel. You could do paid ads. Hey, I'm going to do paid ads. I mean, Google search you can't do because there's no images, but like I'm going to make my paid ads much different in terms of how we write the copy, how we do the visuals, how we design the landing pages, how we think about like using customer evidence, customer proof, people, images, storytelling on those landing pages, how we do follow-up from those landing pages. Like, again, going back to email nurture or like just direct one-to-one follow-up that happens from an actual human, relying a little bit less on AI SDRs, like crap like that, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, hopefully that gave you some context.
Definitely. I'm just thinking a load of follow-up questions and conscious of the final 2 minutes we've got, so I'll just ask a couple more instead. So something else we wanted to talk about was sort of the rise of these integrated teams doing what you've just described. So how fast is this growing, and how fast do people need to sort of look into this, in your opinion?
I mean, I think you just look at like your goals, right? Like what is working and not working, like, and how has that trended over the last 2 to 3 years, 4 or 5 years, if you're a more established company. If it's going down, then you should change and try this stuff. If it's flatlined, still try and change. If it's still doing well and it's like still going up, like, okay, maybe you don't need to do much. Maybe you're already doing this, but I think it comes down to like your guardrails of goals and budget. And also like, if you just look at your landscape of your competitors, where you play in the market, like there could just be a ripe opportunity for you to take this approach, because if no one else is doing this in your marketplace and everyone sounds the same, well then break out through the noise. Like this is the time to do it.
Nice. And in regards to getting started with this, what's one thing somebody listening to this can do in the next 7 days in regard to people first GTM strategy?
Sign up for TACK Insider, and I promise you, in 7 days, you will have we have a whole course on this. We have 9 classes on this in TACK Insider, Paul, that walks you step by step how to do it.
Brilliant. Love it. Ever the professional as well. Listen, if you've enjoyed listening to Mark as I have, go and check out tacknetwork.com, tackinsider.com. And if you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a comment on Spotify or a 5-star review. Plus, hit the follow button to not miss future episodes. Listen, it's been a pleasure. I'm going to make sure I hunt you down in Boston, particularly at the event, which I'll put the link in the show notes as well.
Thank you, Paul. It's been a lot of fun.
Nice one. Speak to you soon.
Cheers.
This was an episode of Avidly Talks, a mostly marketing, sales and HubSpot-focused podcast, brought to you by the team at Avidly, an international agency and multiple times winner of HubSpot Global Partner of the Year. Each week, we're diving into topics to help you do better in your work and try to make you smile along the way. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a comment on Spotify and a 5-star review wherever you're listening. Be sure to subscribe to get the next episode in the series, and you can also find out more about us at avidlyagency.com/HubSpot.